Hi, I'm Rich Torrey. Welcome to another Level Up Cartooning. All you ever need to follow along with me is a pencil and paper. It doesn't get any easier than that, right? Now, before we get started, make sure you hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button as it helps this channel to grow, and hit the bell so you never miss a lesson. So for the past few weeks, we've been drawing some of Disney's iconic animated character couples. Last week, we drew a version of Mickey and Minnie that has been the standard since the late 1930s or early 40s. Before that, we drew the classic version of Mickey and Minnie, as well as Donald and Daisy Duck. Anyway, I didn't want to limit the scope of our couple drawings to just Disney because there are so many great animated couples out there. So with that in mind, I thought today we'd draw one of the classic cartoon couples of all time, Popeye and Olive Oyl. The crazy thing is, Olive Oyl actually predates Popeye by 10 years. That's right. Long before either was seen in any animated short, Olive Oyl debuted in the comic strip Thimble Theater in 1919. 10 years later, in 1929, Popeye appeared, and he was only supposed to be a temporary throw-in character. But he quickly became so popular that he took over the strip. Olive became his longtime love interest, and together they've remained one of the most recognizable, enduring couples in cartoon history. Anyway, what do you say we get started? Let's draw. We're going to draw Popeye and Olive Oyl step by step, giving you the secret formula to be able to draw them again and again. If you watch any of my other videos, you know I normally use the character's head to figure out how big the entire character is. Now this is a great example of how different characters, even within the same couple, can have very different proportions. Olive Oyl is tall, thin, and angular. Her head is relatively small compared to her body, and she stands roughly 6 heads tall. In other words, however tall or small her head is, her entire body is 6 of those. Popeye, on the other hand, has a more compact, stocky build, like a brick with oversized forearms and a massive chest. Popeye is roughly 5 heads tall. In other words, however tall the oval we use to map out his weird head, his entire body is about 5 of those tall. One other thing I want you to focus on with both these characters is the line of action. Olive almost always has a loose, flowing curve to her posture, never stiff. Popeye may be compact, but even he has a strong curve running through his pose. If you draw either one too straight up and down, they lose that classic cartoon energy. Okay? So what do you say we get started with a roadmap for today's pose of Olive Oyl and Popeye? So there's our roadmap of Popeye and Olive Oyl. Now before we go into step 2, I want to give you the layout of Popeye and Olive Oyl using simple shapes for those of you who want to screen grab. Just something to help you when laying out your drawing. Okay, so now we're on to step 2. In this step, we do what I call roughing out the features. You'll see that I use guidelines to help me to place Popeye and Olive's eyes, noses, mouths, and other things. We don't want those guidelines in the final drawing, so you want to keep them light enough to be able to erase them easily. Okay, so let's rough out the features for Popeye and Olive Oyl. Alright, so there are the roughed out features of Popeye and Olive Oyl. So now with the roadmap done and the features roughed out, it's time for that final step. In step 3, we get to have fun. We get to draw in the final details of Popeye and Olive Oyl. We don't have to guess where to put things because we've already done all the hard work to figure that out. This would be the time to pause and look at your drawing while everything is still drawn lightly. Fix anything that feels off before committing to those final lines. But even as you draw those final lines, you should still be looking to improve your drawing all the way until the very end. Okay? So let's draw in the final details for Popeye and Olive Oyl. And that's how you do it. There you have it, another classic cartoon couple from Elsie Seeger's Thimble Theater and later from Fleischer Studios Animation, Popeye and Olive Oyl. So how do you think you did? Understand if you've never drawn Popeye or Olive before, you can't expect to have drawn them perfectly on your first try. You'll notice I don't spend time coloring Popeye or Olive during this video because I want my lesson to focus solely on the drawing process. But now you have the secret formula, the process for drawing Popeye and Olive Oyl. And with that, you can draw them again and again, and by all means color them when you're done. I promise each time you draw them, it'll be a little better and a little easier. I also promise the more you work with me, the better you're going to get at all your cartoon characters. So I'd love to see your drawing of Popeye and Olive Oyl. If you can, take a picture and post it on either Facebook or Instagram, and don't forget to include the hashtag #LevelUpCartooning. I hope you had as much fun as I did with this one. Remember to subscribe, and thanks for joining me. Until next time, keep drawing, my friends.